Hey guys, so I just got back from the theater from seeing the new body horror movie Together, a movie that I was definitely looking forward to for the past few months since I've seen the trailers for this thing. Um, this is a movie that it's been under my radar for like I said the last few months. I got the trailer quite a few times, not as much as some trailers, but I got it quite a few times, and I was intrigued by the idea. I'm a big fan of that genre of horror, which is body horror. I mean, my favorite movie of last year, it was The Substance. That was one of the best body horror movies I've seen in decades. I love the fucking just body horror is like the most usually when I get the most squeamish when as far as genres of horror goes. I I like the idea, even if there is a little bit of a controversy surrounding it. Luckily, when I've read the reviews and seen a lot of the headlines, there's not a lot of talk about the controversy. If you don't know what the controversy, I didn't even know about this controversy until about a month ago, honestly. Um, so apparently, when you see the idea for this movie, you go, that sounds like that's a pretty creative, original concept. That's pretty cool. I wonder why nobody's come up with this idea before. But apparently, according to this controversy, somebody might have. That's the controversial part of this thing is there is a lawsuit going. I think still active lawsuit going on where a guy is claiming that he came up with this idea back years ago, and the director and Allison Brie and Dave Franco stole the idea. Apparently, it's not been determined, so I can't say who's guilty and who's at fault. But that didn't affect my view of this movie. But I was like, that is interesting. What will come out of that? Because if there was any there, particularly I'll talk about in a minute, but there's one scene that I do remember them saying happens pretty much exactly from what the original creator said. Uh, happens towards the end, and it's like if that's true, man, and he had that, and it's like there might be some true. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but it's like that's some serious allegation. But I was still looking forward to the movie, and yeah, this is after sitting for some garbage horror movies that I Know What You Did Last Summer and House on Eden, and even though I like Baby the Reckoning and kind of the home, ironically, this is back going back to like I said, I was determined after I watched the three movies I watched last weekend or this past weekend. I was like, man, are they trying as I was saying for a while that this has been one of the best years of horror movies and there's ever the last few years have been phenomenal for horror movies, and then get a string of horrible movies in one fucking weekend or 2 weekends. With I Know What You Did Last Summer, but this is in going back to what I've been talking about. This is just another example of how great horror movies have been in the last fucking few years, man. Like horror movies are back, man, and with stuff like this, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. This movie was a fun trip. I did not regret seeing this one bit. I the main thing about this movie that carries it is the two leads, which are Alison Brie and Dave Franco, who are a legit married couple. Even though in this movie they're not married, but they're a couple who's got a lot of problems. Right from the get go, as soon as you meet them, there's obviously a lot of tension going on with this family. Including Dave Franco has some really fucked up backstory to his parents. That was fucking that scene, what he describes happened to his dad is pretty fucked up, man. I have many questions, so many questions about that. But it's they leave it ambiguous enough that you're but it's still horrified at the same time. what the fuck exactly happened there? But anyways, um, when they kind of are having a rocky relationship when we meet them, because Allison Brie has a she's a school teacher that got a job like outside of New York City, out in like the wilderness, basically out in the middle of nowhere. And Dave Franco is this 30-year-old something like struggling musician who's trying to make his big break, even it's still in his 30s. And they move out in the wilderness, and there's obviously tension from the get go. And it's a movie about codependency to the T, like to the extreme. And man, oh man, I this movie is it's it's very funny. Like I just said, it's a horror comedy, and it's like yeah, it's very funny. When it needs to be funny, it is very funny. I laughed. I don't know, like there's some. I don't think a lot of people laugh in some parts that should have been laughing at. I laughed. Uh, this movie's not always exactly subtle either, but uh, and this movie can get very fucking gross. Even though I will say this, it's almost like the human Senate. I thought it was going to get grosser to a point. I thought it could have got a little bit grosser to a point, like for the exactly for like the first half of this movie. I was kind of like, this movie could really go. I was wanting it to get crazy, and like I'll get in that more in a second, but I was like, like it does the right thing in that like a lot of the really gross shit is really implied or left to your imagination more. Like spoiler alert is if you don't know the plot, they kind of wander out into the woods and they find this like they end up in this like underground cave esque place. There's a bells all over the place, which that's never a good sign to have symbols on them, which is never a good sign. And there's like this little fountain in this little cave that because they're fucking stupid people, Dave Franklin says, well, they're thirsty. But as an idiot, he goes, "Oh, this still looks okay," and he drinks. Yeah, I have no problem. But after he drinks it, it causes this weird reaction where their bodies they can't be separated from each other, and like as the movie goes along, and if they stay together long enough, their bodies start melding together and shit like that. It's fucking as weird. It gets some pretty gross. There's some pretty gross scenery, even though like the most obvious one. I was just waiting as soon as like I was like, okay, so obviously when I heard this plot, I was like, there's got to be a scene where they have sex, and well, that's not going to end well. That happens really early in the movie, honestly. More earlier than I thought it would. There's a sex scene where, well, there's only one way to put it. He gets stuck. um, and it's a lot more implied and a lot more like sound effects, which is what you need to do. You don't need to show it. You just can kind of like in your head to go, wow! Like, as they're trying to pull out, they're like, ah! Like, like, and like even the scene in the trailer that you see where they cut it, like basically they're like their hands are like in each other or some shit like that, and so they're trying to separate it, so they get like a fucking a little drill or whatever. Then you see that in the trailer, and then they're all like screaming as they're doing it. It's implied. It don't show it. They don't show it. They just show the aftermath, and like they're just bandaged up. They they're like melded together enough that like only their skin is, so that they can like just cut off some skin and not like end up fucking like bleeding out everywhere or losing their arms or whatever. So at that point, but like it's implied, it does a really good job. But like I'm fine with that. Like a lot of people always talk about a human centipede. I don't know why this is a. I mean, this movie has some kind of themes similar to Human Centipede. This movie is a better movie than Human Centipede, but um, I can't believe it compared this movie to Human Centipede, but fuck it. Um, but it does a lot of the same things that like Human Centipede did. The first one, a lot of people always talk about that movie, how gross it is, and like, I always tell people it's like I've seen all three Human Centipede movies. The first one, it's more implied. The sequels are the ones that just go full blown out gore fest and just get disgusting. The first one was more like a lot of shit was implied, literally, and it didn't really show you a lot. You just had to let your mind go to really sick places while you're watching it, and just imagine what was happening. Uh, and that was actually pretty effective in the first Human Centipede. Which again, this is a better movie, but like this movie does the same thing. It's like it knows when to get like violent, but also like it's not too bad. Like I will say this, like there's a twist at the end of this movie. Like you kind of find out what is going on with this cave and what was going on with the bells, and it's kind of really fucking obvious that I was like, really, I shouldn't have been shocked, but I was kind of like one of those movies that I was kind of invested enough that I kind of almost was shocked when it's revealed. I was like, I really shouldn't have, but I kind of was a little bit. I was like, that's a credit to the movie. I was like, it's the most obvious, but it's like it's and I actually will say this too. Like I said, I was talking about how man, I thought this movie like I think it was good chunk of this movie. I was like, this movie's really good, but like movie could get really a lot weirder if it wanted to. I was like kind of hoping, like, man, this movie's not getting as weird as it should. And then the last like 5 minutes happened. I'm like, oh, never mind. It's like, never mind. This movie basically just told me hold my beer because oh, that last like five, like 2 to 5 minutes of this movie. Holy shit, gets fucking weird, and it's not very subtle either. And that one of the last scenes involves the song Spice Girl song "Two Becomes One." I'm just gonna leave it at that. And that's what was said was one of the things that was in the original guy's screenplay was that the ending was used that same song. That's where it's going to get tricky. If that is true, that might they might he might have an argument. And there might be some argument. I don't know. We'll see. Um, but yeah, that scene was pretty good. I mean, that's song is obviously on the nose, but they also do. There is a point to that song being played because they established that early in their relationship that Allison Brie was a fan of Spice Girls, and he's a music aficionado, and he bought her this album or whatever, and so because she loved that Spice Girls. So there is a point to that. It's a very touching scene. Well, I would say a very touching scene, but I won't describe what the fuck happens. And then the ending to the movie, the last shot of it, went, whoa, what? It's a very like it abruptly ends. You're like, hold on, what? And like then I was like, well, that makes sense, I guess. Jesus. Uh, that's like, and I was just this actor. I had a big grin on myself. I was like, I love the hell out of this movie. I was gonna give this a B plus, but you know what? I'm gonna give it an A. I definitely enjoyed this movie. And like, it's a lot of fun. It might not be for everybody, but I love the hell out of it. Again, this has been a goddamn good year of horror movies, like Sinners, Monkey, the Monkey. I love the hell. I love the Heart Out of Hard Eyes. Obviously, like I said, Sinners is easily my favorite movie of the year so far. Not just horror, but it's just a favorite movie. I love the hell out of Sinners. Um, like everybody did. Uh, I forget. So I'm sure I'm forgetting other movies. That's the problem. Like, there's been so many good horror movies. I can't fucking remember all of them. Um, like I always remember the Monkey. I love the hell out of the Monkey. But I honestly do I like that better than because I did well the trailers. I even got some fucking great trailers for this movie. I got the full length trailer for weapons, which I was really worried about. I honestly didn't want to see because I was worried that they would show too much of the movie, and they didn't. They just showed you enough. I feel like I saw, the previous Zach Krager movie. He's the guy who's making weapons. He made Barbarian, and I said even back then when I reviewed it, that was one of the best advertised movies I've seen in decades because that showed very little of the movie. That trailer that I got, like I went back and watched that trailer. Like it just showed like the first 40 minutes, if that, maybe even 30. It made you believe that was the whole movie, but it wasn't. Uh, that's all I'm hoping is the same with the weapons. And then also got the trailer for Osgood Perkins' next movie. Like I knew that was coming out. What's the fucking keeper? And I got a trailer with that. Uh, that was if you put that trailer after the full, more in depth trailer. It looks very weird. What's the other one? Oh, I got Chris Stuckman. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize Chris Tuckman's movie is going to be. What was the that fucking? What is that movie? Damn it! Damn it! What's the damn Chris Tuckman's movie? I am looking for it. It looked pretty good. Is it Eden Lake? No, I must say Eden. What the fuck was that movie? God damn, I can't remember the trailer, but yeah, the movie that I know he's been working on for a while, and I didn't realize it was coming to theaters. Cool. I mean, if fucking, there's a lot of YouTubers that are becoming horror filmmakers, and I know Chris Stuckman. I've watched his stuff on YouTube. He's pretty good. I like his stuff. I haven't watched it in years, but like from what I watched it, I like his work on YouTube. He's a reviewer like me. I said that he's getting to make a horror movie. It's actually produced by Mike Flanagan too. So fuck it. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's being made by Neon, which is making like now becoming the new A24. So there you go. Yeah, that's as far as together goes. I will be back probably Friday with the Naked Gun and Bad Guys 2, but both which I'm hearing early word of mouth is that they're both really good. Thank God. So until then, I'll talk to you guys later.